Hey, what's up everybody? Kerwin P. Slippers here. And guess what? It's already part 3 of the custom 10XL restoration. So, engine's pretty much all painted and ready to be assembled. But first I want to talk about some of these paints that I used. So, this More Sparkle is a black paint that I used on one of my motorcycle restorations, and I had some left over. So, some of the parts I didn't have powder coated, I used this to paint them myself. So that, custom. Then for the head, I used this. Got it at AutoZone, I think. High heat paint. So I use that to paint the head. It's like a silver, flat like aluminum or whatever. So then once I hit it with some clear coat, then it made it look nice and cool. This is the clear coat that I used. Duplicolor. Did the engine with that too. Clear coated the engine because I hit it with, well, I didn't even use any of this. When I hit it with this, high heat barbecue black. And it's kind of like a black that's not very shiny. So once I hit it with that, then it made it all shiny. So we'll go over to the bench here and we'll check it out. Alright, here's all the engine stuff. Got it all laid out. Check it out. Everything looks like it's ready to go and be put back together. So I'm probably gonna have to enlist some help from my good buddy Taryl. I'll have to go and get him. Hopefully he's not gonna be mad. It's never fun when he's all mad. So let's see what he's doing. Taryl, where you at? Taryl, you in here?
Yeah, what do you want?
Good.
Hey, what are you doing? I'm
Sorry.
making a poop face.
All right, well, I need some help out here with this engine when you're done.
Well, I'm done.
All right, cool. He's gonna help me out when he's done. See you in a little minute. Oh yeah, check this baby out. Got my own shirt. S-Man got his own shirt now. That's what you need. Get yourself an S-Man shirt, baby. They're the coolest shirts ever made.
All right, Slippers. What do you want that's so important? I was busy.
Oh yeah, what's that smell?
Oh, seems to be my excrement permeated the pages of this manual. Well, you know these Tecumseh engines, they are pretty crappy.
Oh, real funny. Now he's making fun of my engine.
All right, Slippers, what do you need help with?
I need help with putting a new set of rings on this bad boy.
Do you have the new rings?
Yes, I do. Got them right here. What's the part number?
32004 standard rings.
Yup.
Okay, well, when you get these set of rings from Tecumseh, of course, there's no little slip of paper telling you how to put them on. And sometimes people will take the old rings off and they'll set them down and they're like, oh, these rings they're different. I didn't know which way they went. So Slippers hasn't taken them off yet, but luckily I got this Tecumseh manual, and in section 5, it'll tell me. But for those of you watching, you may not have the manual. So if you look, this is the top ring that's got the bevel on the inside. If you can look at the cross section view of the ring here, right here where my finger is. That's the top ring, see? Because it's got the little chamfer or bevel. And then the middle ring has got this undercut right there, that little notch. And what that does is that scrapes the oil back down as it's going up and down. That little groove will scrape the oil. And if you notice in the drawring, there's an expander located behind the ring. And in this kit, you got 2 expanders. So of course, common sense will tell you that this is the one that goes in the middle. And this is the expander that goes behind the oil ring. The oil control ring, they call it. And then this is your oil control ring, which has no orientation. So either way it can go in. You're not gonna mess it up. So on Slippers engine, when that piston ring broke, which I've been doing this a long time and I've never seen that before, so there's a first for me. I've heard of broken rings, but never saw one. Never took an engine apart where it had a broken ring like that. And by that ring being broken, it put a pretty good size groove in the cylinder. So what you're supposed to do is have it bored and then have an oversized piston put in there. But we're not going to do that. Now, by not doing that, the only thing that may happen is it's probably going to use a little bit of oil, because the oil is going to get past that groove. So this engine, when it's done, may use a little bit. But seeing how it's more of an antique classic tractor, it's not the type of tractor that's going to be used all the time. It's just mainly for show, like a showpiece. So we're really not concerned about that. But the proper way to fix it would be to bore it. So we're gonna make sure when we put the piston in that we're gonna stagger the end gaps of the rings so that none of them are close to where this groove is. Because we don't want an end gap lining up with that groove, because that'll even more oil will come out. But as you saw, this engine did run with a broken ring. So they'll run, it's just going to make the groove deeper and deeper and deeper. So we honed it and got most of it out. So the first thing you're going to want to do, Slippers, as you're paying attention here, I hope, is we're going to have to take your old rings off. Now they do make a tool for doing this, but if you're careful, you can just spread them and get them off. Get them out of the groove. And then there's our expanders. And then we need to clean this up.
Check it out. Got some cool new bracelets. Thanks to Tecumseh, always coming through. I need some good jewelry.
So Slippers, you need to clean all this off of there before we install the piston. You gotta get all this carbon and stuff off of here.
Alright, I can do that.
So to bore it, oversized piston we'd have to find. Now these rings were no longer available. He had to go on the inner screen to find these. So I'm sure the same would be with the oversized piston. And, you know, you may not have any luck finding an oversized piston if you did want to bore it. So you might, you know, if this is the case that happens to you, this may be your only choice. So what you want to do is you want to put the ring in the bore and take your piston and kind of push it halfway down the bore so we can see what kind of end gap we got. And in this book, it'll tell you what your end gap should be. But by looking at it, it looks pretty tight. It's got a pretty tight end gap. Slippers, give me one of your bracelets so we can compare the old ring. So this is the old ring.
Taking my best jewelry.
Now let's put the old ring in there and shove it down in there. And see the gap? It's way bigger. So these rings did need to be replaced, whether that ring was broken or not. So now we gotta hand the piston off to Slippers so he can clean all that crap off of there. And then we'll install the rings, the bottom one first, the second one and the top one, and then we're gonna put the piston in.
Then we can do the valves after that.
Now another thing, look at this dipper that's on here. Now when they cast this, you could see that they didn't really do a good job of cleaning that off. So he needs to take like a light file and kind of file some of that off, because you know that could come off over time. It's little things like that you need to look at. And I also believe we have to have the crankshaft in too before we can put this piston in, because it's got to match with it. We can't just shove this in and then put the crank in after it.
Cool.
And of course he's got the dipper on upside down. Slippers.
I was just throwing it on real quick after I took it off.
Well, you should put it on correctly for the camera shot, because people are going to notice it. You got match marks. Connecting rod match marks. See how it matches?
Look at that.
And he had it on backwards. Because that's how it's machined in the factory. They put it together when it's raw, casting, and when it goes through the machine, it cuts it, and that way when you put it together, it's got to match with that. And those marks got to be facing you so you can see them when you're assembling the engine. You're not going to put the engine together with the marks on the other side and then go put the dipper on and go, oh, well, it must go like this, but I just can't see the match mark. And then the piston's going to go around, and see how this is at an angle? That's probably to help clear the crankcase here. And then it's going to hit it and it's just going to snap it off. And then you got all kinds of new problems to deal with.
Oh, that sounds pretty scary. All right.
Clean it up, Slippers. I'll be in my office making another poop face. Okay, of course, Slippers did a poor job cleaning the piston, because he doesn't know. He's an old man. So, you can clean the piston and you can sand it with either a Scotch-Brite pad or some fine wet sandpaper like you use for wet sand in a car, like some 800 or 1000 you can even use. And you can wash this. It's aluminum. You're going to wash it anyway. So you're going to want to wash it in soap and water. And another good thing to buy are these dental tools, which I would never use for dentistry because they work better for working on mowers. And you can get these at flea markets. I'm sure you've all seen them at the flea market and thought, I ain't buying them. Well, I ain't going to pick my teeth with them. That's what I said too when I picked these up. I'm going to pick my teeth with these, but you know what these would be good for? Exactly this. If you're forced to reuse this part and you got to clean it up, you want to get all that carbon that may be stuck in those ring groups. And that's where these dental tools come in. See all that stuff I'm getting out of there? Just like the dental hygienist when she gets in and scrapes on your teeth. Not that I would know how they do that. I've just heard people talk about it. So, like I said, you can pick these up. They got all different angles and little scratchers on them. To get any of that carbon buildup that's tucked in there, that's hard to get at. Make sure these oil holes are clear. And then we'll go ahead and wash that off real good, get all that washed out of there. Then we'll be ready to install the rings. Are you learning anything there, Slippers?
I'm learning a little bit, yeah. I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I haven't really rebuilt too many engines, Taryl.
As old as you are?
I've mainly just done like carburetors and stuff like that. Nothing where I'm like tearing down engines and stuff. Never did any ring replacements.
Okay, in some of my other engine rebuild videos, I talk about plastic gauge. And for those of you that don't know, you can get this plastic gauge at the auto parts store. And it comes in different colors for different clearances. Red is for 2 to 6, blue is for 4 to 9, yellow for 9 to 20. We got the green, which is for 1 to 3. And how this works is, you have this little green ribbon in here. But of course mine is trashed or gone. But that's what it looks like. It's a little rod of like clay. And you cut off a little piece and you stick it on the crank journal, and then you would bolt this to the crankshaft, torque it to the spec, remove it, and then this gauge tells you what thousandths of an inch clearance you have on your crank journal. Now you could stick it on there, the little piece. You only need a little piece. You could stick it on there. You could stick it on the cap. You could stick it on the rod, wherever you want to put it. And it's going to smush it. It's going to smush it out. And then this is your gauge. And then you just line it up with the smush. So if the piece of green is smushed out that far, that's 1,000 clearance you got. If it matches that white one, that's 1,500. The other one, 2 thousandths, and so on to 3. So that's how plastic gauge works. If you want to find out your clearance, your rod clearance. And then you check it to your manual for your engine to make sure it's at spec. But we know this engine, didn't have a rod knock. But I thought I would just go over that with you, just so you know how to do that. And then if you had excessive clearance, then you would have to take the crankshaft to a machine shop and have them grind it down, and you'd have to get an oversized rod. And in some cases, if there's no rod available, they have to weld up the journal and then grind it back to the original size that it is, and then use the original connecting rod if available. But we don't need to do that in this case, but I thought I'd go over that since we're doing a rebuild on it.
Oh, now it's time for the fun part, putting it back in there.
What, one for you to watch me put it back in there? You're not doing anything.
Well, it's still going to be fun.
I got the rings installed, and they want the end gaps spaced 90 degrees apart from each other. And since our score mark is here in the front, I got an end gap here and an end gap way over here, and I got the other end gap here in the back. So they want them 90 degrees from each other. And then we're going to spray some lubricant or some assembly lube, in which case we use the gel lube, which we sell in our online store. This is a good assembly lube and general purpose lube. You can use it on other stuff too. So check it out. So we'll spray some on this bearing. And we replace the crank seals in here too. And we're just going to want to get that in there. And then we'll spray some on the journal and on the bore, which we'll probably have to wipe around with our hands, just so we got some lubrication in there. This stuff is sticky. That's what's good, it sticks. And then we got our ring compressor. Sweet. So as before, we put a little mark on the piston for the flywheel side because this piston wasn't marked. But just in case you were replacing the connecting rod, maybe you were using the original piston, and then we'll spray a little bit on the skirt. And
That
on
was
the
my
ring.
clean job on that.
Yeah, I had to go over it, Slippers.
Terrible job again.
We'll drop it in. And then we'll make sure that we're not going to damage that. Now sometimes you can put little caps on the end of here, on the end of the studs, or some tape to keep it from damaging the crank pin. But that fits right in between there. We don't need to do that. They do that on cars a lot of times. And we'll just tighten this down. Now I like to bring it up a little bit. I don't like to have the compressor resting on that bottom ring. I like to have it boosted up a little. Tighten it. Now these have a tension thing on here. You can tighten this up a little so it doesn't release on you. And then take something wooden, like a hammer handle. I like to make sure this is nice and square so we don't get a ring to stick. And then just gently
Going back down. Oh no.
Slippers, hold this crankshaft because it's got them tapered bearings. Hold it up in place there.
Okay.
Make sure the tension's on that compressor.
Want me to hold that too?
Hold tension on that. Now if you find yourself doing that, you're going to want to probably start over. Because sometimes you're going to get a ring that's sticking. Alright, that ring's in. Because that's how you break a ring. It might be. Piston may have turned a little bit.
How's that?
Just gotta go easy with it and gentle. There we go. There's our dinner. That's how you break stuff, when you start hammering on it and forcing it. Something ain't right if it ain't going in smooth. Alright. Now we've made the connecting rod meet the crankshaft. Mr. Connecting Rod, meet Mr. Crankshaft.
Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Connecting Rod. You too, Mr. Crankshaft.
Now we can put our bearing cover on. Now you notice we did have a little bit of scoring in there. And again, if you want to polish it, you can polish it up. Super fine sandpaper. This has got to be polished, smooth, for less friction. You don't want anything to grab. So like 1500, 2000, you could wet sand it a little bit. That was probably some grit in the oil that did that.
Yeah, there was some dirt in that crankcase. I took it apart.
So this will be fine. We just lightly sanded it a little bit, and then again we washed it, soapy water, got it nice and clean. We'll put some assembly lube on this. And then here's our match mark. And then washers, and then the nuts. Now, they always recommend that you use new nuts. But again, if you're in a situation where you're restoring something old and you have no access to new parts and you have to use the old ones over, you know, there are different solutions to that. So we're going to use a little red Loctite just in case. We're going to put on those connecting rod studs, a couple of drops. And again, this stuff has got to be cleaned. This isn't going to work if there's oily residue on there. So you got to make sure the threads are clean of oil. So I clean these with carburetor spray or brake fluid, or brake cleaner will work. Brake fluid, you want to clean it, brake fluid. Carburetor spray, brake cleaner, soap and water. I know these are clean because we clean that in soap and water. So what we're going to do is take the engine block and flip it over. Put it on the head here so we can get at those rods. Oh, the cast iron is heavy.
Oh yeah, baby's got some weight to it.
Yeah. You're good at spray painting those slippers.
Try to do what I can.
Now we can put our connecting rod washers on there. And we'll put a little bit of red Loctite on there. Oh, that's a little too much. We don't want any of it to get down into the... Take a Q-tip. Let's check it to make sure we can take this back off. We don't want any to get, see? We don't want any to get down past there. And of course, the gel lube is red like the Loctite.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
So we'll clean this off real good. They even got that thread locking tape. You can use that.
Never seen anything like that.
Be careful with the Loctite. Alright, I got a little sloppy with the Loctite. I thought it was a little thicker than that. So I'm just going to get some on a Q-tip and apply it to the threads that way. We'll go ahead and put these on and torque them to the proper spec.
Because then you got the magazine. Got all the info in it.
Now it's pretty tight clearance in there. So 1/4 inch drive sockets are thinner. Because you may have trouble with a regular standard socket getting it in there. We'll snug these down and then we'll torque it. So here in the manual, connecting rod, lock nuts, 7 to 9 foot-pounds or 86 to 110 inch-pounds. And again, you do it in increments, back and forth. So we're going to go to 110.
Whoa.
And go back and forth a couple times just to make sure it don't move on you. All right, Slippers.
Cool.
Now next would be to put your lifters in. And again, you got to inspect all your parts.
How do those look?
This one's got kind of a little divot in it. From the low with a cam. It should be alright though.
Cool.
We'll just turn it. It looks like it didn't, like it never turned in there.
Uh-huh.
You can see where the lobe consistently wore in that area. This one looks like it was spinning. Now didn't this have a, I don't remember, did it have a valve rotator? On these are the end caps, and they used what? A little pin went in there?
Yep.
So it didn't have a rotator. This one looked like it was rotating. This one doesn't. So lube them up. Again, it's just a lawnmower. It's not the space shuttle. Stick them in. We gotta get this out of the way.
There it goes.
Now we'll find our timing mark. Put the camshaft back in. We're gonna lubricate these too. Want some lube on the face. Clean the crankshaft all, or the camshaft all up, Slip Dog?
Not really, no.
You're kind of
I forgot about that.
yeah. This stuff should have all been cleaned prior to assembly.
Oh, yeah, I was waiting until I got to that point. I ran out of time.
It's alright, it's your engine, it ain't mine. Everything's got to be clean.
My first lawnmower engine rebuild.
And inspected. Inspect the lobes for wear. You said one of these tooths was beveled. There it is, right there. So we want that over there. We want to lube up the lobes. I'm having a hard time seeing that bevel. May have to highlight it with Mr. White Paint Pen. Hello, Mr. White Paint Pen.
Hello, Taryl. Yeah. Let me get some of my white paint out. And you can mark that.
Yeah, that'll make it a little
You
easier.
can mark that tooth.
That was pretty cool.
If you want to whiten your teeth, Taryl, help yourself. There's some white paint to your teeth. I don't mind.
There we go.
Look at that. It's pretty cool.
There's your dinner. All right, Slippers, now you can just lube up this and this bearing and this surface. And try not to get any on the gasket surface. And then you can put your side cover on. You got your side cover gasket?
I don't have that yet. They didn't send it. That's the only gasket I didn't get yet.
So you're bothering me to put this thing together and you don't even have all the parts yet?
Well, we can put all the other stuff on. We can worry about that gasket later.
All right, put the cover on and just put a couple of bolts in to hold it, and then that way we can do the valves. You could always put the gasket on later.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's not a big deal. We're not going to be running it today, so.
All right, I gotta grind Slippers valves for them. putting that side cover on. Like new money. Okay, we got the valves refaced, and now we're going to do our hillbilly valve seat resurfacing. Now I've got an actual New Way valve cutter, but again, like I've said in other valve videos, not everybody's got the money for that.
Yeah, I know I don't.
And this is an alternative for cleaning up the seats. Take some emery paper and put it on the valve. You just want to clean it up. You're not going to be taking off any like you do. And that'll give you an indication of how it is. So you see how I did that? I just took a piece of emery cloth and I cut it so it fits around there. And see, it shines that up. Then you can look at the seat, and that'll give you a good idea of if you need to take it maybe to a machine shop that's got a cutter, or your local lawnmower shop that might have a New Way cutter, and then they could cut the seats for you. But if not, you could just do it this way, because a lot of times you don't need to do, cut the seats. The seats seem to be a lot harder than the valve. So here's our valve clearances on these here models. The 8 horse, the 10 horse, and the 12 horse are 10 on the intake, 20 on the exhaust. So piston at top dead center, both valves closed. And since we ground a little bit off the face, they're a little tight. So we're gonna have to take a little bit off the stem on that intake. And this one you can hear it click. So we're gonna take quite a bit off of that because I had to take a lot off the face of this one.
Great.
So for you to do this at home, you're gonna take them on a bench grinder and you're gonna go up to the grinding wheel and spin it and grind a little bit off and come back and check it. Now when you do it that way, you should probably use an 0.008 feeler gauge. So that way as you get close, you'll know you don't want to go over. You can use 8 or 6. So that way when you grind it and you get close, you go, oh, it's a little sloppy on 6. You'll put an 8 in there. Oh, it's a little sloppy. Oh, 10 is perfect. So go a little bit under on there. But on my machine, get out of the way.
Oh, sorry.
I've got a spot where I can do it on the end here. So I just push the valve up till it touches the wheel. And then when I turn this knob, I can take a little bit off each time. Go back to the motor and check it until I get to my right clearance. Alright, clearances are set. Like I said, I didn't have to take much off. The one I showed you over there was perfect. Came back 20 thousandths, and then this one I just had to kiss the end of it. As you can see. And 10 thousandths slipped right in there. Slip dog.
Sweet.
So now you can lap them in. That's easy.
All right, yeah.
You can lap them in, and you can put the valve springs back in and the keepers.
Ooh, my favorite thing.
All the hard part's done.
Okay.
Now
cool.
it's the easy part, putting it back together.
All right, sweet.
Taryl out.
Well, looks like it's just me putting it back together now. Hopefully I got all the parts for it. All right, got this little tool, got suction on the end. Push that in, put it down. Look at that, pulls that valve out. Now we're gonna put some lapping compound on there. How you like that? Rebuilder's aid. That's what I am, a rebuilder, and this is aiding me. All right, put a little around the edge like that. I don't want to get too carried away. Taryl might get mad, wasting all the stuff. He'll be out here yelling at me. Slap it back in there. Oh yeah, listen to that. Grinding it up. Around a little bit. All right, let's check it, see what we got. Oh yeah, look at that. Got a nice little ring around there, baby. Looking good. All right, I want to clean all this off now. Don't want to leave any of that on there. That would not be good. Just make sure you use some carb spray to clean it all off. Got some right here. My old pal Elkskins had these super long head bolts rammed in there that weren't even the right ones, so luckily Taryl had some that were a lot shorter, because I think these were bottoming out and the head probably wasn't sealing all the way, so gotta get those out of there. Yeah, look at that, another one. So we got some shorter ones going in, so get the head back on there. Now it's time to open a little gift. There's a part number on that, check it out. Hopefully I looked up the right stuff online. Went to Pro Parts for that. Had to look it up online. Alright, let's see what we got here. Look at that. Head gasket, baby. Nope, wrong one. Well, ain't that great. Ah, I'm just kidding, I got it on upside down. Ah, look at that. There it is, baby. Now we just gotta put the head on. Alright. Done. Start it up. See how it works. We're all done. Taryl was telling me that I needed to have this set a certain way that after I took it off, so I was like, oh man, hopefully I can remember what it was set, but luckily it's got marks on it from when these were screwed down, so I'll just screw it down to where the old marks were, so that worked out. But yeah, that messes with the timing, so you want to make sure you remember exactly where you had it. There it is.
Hey, Slippers! I was just in my office making another poop face when I was going over this ignition system for that their Tecumseh engine you're working on.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and maybe I need to explain a little bit about it. So you've got what is called the older type solid state ignition without alternator, because you've got a starter generator on there, right? Don't you got a big starter generator with a pulley and all that?
Oh yeah, yeah, I got that.
So this is your ignition system.
Okay, cool.
And this is how it is. It's got a magneto, a primary wire, and a pulse transformer. Now when you took that thing off, you got it back in the same spot with those washers where the imprint was?
Yeah, I made sure. I was scared. You had me pretty scared. So I wanted to make sure I had it right.
So judging from this drawing that's on here, if any of these components fail, you're probably not going to be able to find these parts. I'm sure they don't make them anymore.
Great. Just what I wanted.
Well, luckily your engine runs.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see when I get it back together, right?
It talks about time here, but yet when I read through this, because we have solid state ignition system, non-alternator type, it doesn't really talk about replace and test for spark, time the magneto by turning counterclockwise as far as it will go, tighten retain screws to 5 to 7 foot-pounds. Solid state stator. These are kind of confusing. But I think if you put everything back the way you did originally, it should be okay.
Alright, I hope so. Ugh. Get a little scared. Does look kind of cool though.
Pulse transformer.
How you like that? See if you got me on the model tag.
So this ignition system you got is kind of, I don't know, you're not going to be able to do too much with it if you have problems.
Oh, great.
Number 2, after the above visual checks are made and the transformer and solid state stator components can be checked using a Mercatronic, Graham Lee, or similar tester. Like a lot of people got them.
Who's Graham Lee?
I don't know. It sounds like somebody in a rock band. Maybe,
oh, yeah.
Maybe he was in Rush, I think.
Yeah, I think that was that guy.
When testers are not available, if testers are not available, use new replacement parts as test parts for possible failed parts. Yeah. So you're going to have to find other parts that are good and use them as test parts, like they're readily available. I don't think so. And if they were, I'm sure they were very expensive.
Sounds pretty cool.
Replace and test for spark, timing the magneto by turning counterclockwise as far as it will go. Tighten retaining screws to 5 to 7 foot-pounds, as I said before. So yeah. Hopefully when you put this thing back together, it's going to work.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too.
But it sounds to me like you got something rare.
Great.
And I like your torque wrench you got going.
Yeah, pretty good torque wrench. Alright, well, I'm just waiting on that gasket now, that sump cover gasket, so when I get that in, pop it on, we'll have everything back together by then. And then we're going to test run it in part 4, so make sure you tune in for that one. See if I got it back together right. So hopefully I did. And as always, as I like to say, there's your supper. Check out the store. Get yourself some Slippers merch, baby. Yeah, follow us on Instagram and Facebook too. Check it out. We got giveaways and stuff all the time. Fun stuff going on over there. So let's see if I got it right, baby. Getting kind of scared.
You almost done, Slippers. I want to go home.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Trying to always rush me all the time.